I love a sing-song at Christmas, but on this occasion, I'm going to leave it to the professionals. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin, I am a geek. You're watching Kevin the Geek. And today, it is day 3 of my 12 Days of Christmas movie reviews. We're going back all the way to 1954 as we take a look at the wonderful Christmas musical, White Christmas. Now, of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click the notification bell. Click a like on the video. Drop a comment down below. Tell me what you're enjoying about my videos. But right now, we're going to get into the review. And like with the first two, with It's a Wonderful Life and Miracle on 34th Street, this is a first time watching of the reviews. So I've never seen the movies before. I'm excited. So let's get into it. Now, there are 10 different categories that I score anything that I'm reviewing. For Christmas movies, there are 10 Christmas-themed categories. Each of them gets a score out of 10, giving a total score out of 100, and I'm using that to rank the videos. So, let's get started with category number 1, the story. So, the origin of this story begins at the end of the Second World War. You have the two best friends. They are current serving soldiers in the American Army. One as I believe as a captain, one as a sergeant or lieutenant or something like that. Wallace and Davis. And it's Christmas Eve and they want to put on a show for the troops. And particularly in honour of their major, Waverley, or General Waverley, as he's basically getting moved out of the trenches, I think, back to kind of HQ. And, you know, despite you not really do Christmas in the armies, they put on a nice little show. And then, of course, the bombs go off and shooting and everything, as it does in the war. But then Davis has to save the life of his mentor, and he unfortunately gets injured in the process. As they come out of the war, they create a bit of a show together, so they start going round on, maybe not so much Broadway, but they go around and do a lot of entertaining for people, and they have quite a successful double act. And then they receive a letter from one of their former soldier friends, who's asked them to have a look at his sisters. Such devoted sisters. They do a similar kind of thing, obviously on a much smaller scale, and you know, hopefully we'll get them involved and give them a bit of a break. To which they basically say, yeah, you know, we're going to go and do that. But it turns out it's actually a bit of a manipulation. It was actually one of the sisters sending a letter on his behalf, you know, as if it had been from him. And straight away, you have this whole dynamic between them. It's a whole kind of love interest, you know, one girl for each of the two men, which for me kind of tired quite quickly. I wasn't as enamoured by it, because it felt like it was, well, I mean, obviously at the time, it was probably setting the groundwork for things. But for me, watching it, you know, 70 odd years later, I feel that I've seen that story before. So to me, it's nothing new. It's nothing really exciting as a story. But they get into some complications and they end up in Vermont. And it turns out that their former general now owns an inn up there. But because of the probably warmer climate than they would normally get at Christmas, you know, normally it's full of snow. It doesn't. So he hasn't really got anybody there. And they decided we're going to put on a show, try and give him a good break and get loads of guests in and to do yeah, to get him some revenue. Otherwise, he may go bankrupt. He may have to close down and things like that. And so the rest of the movie stems from them basically trying to set the show up You have the whole thing about halfway through where they're still not really getting people to come in, so they have an idea about going onto a TV station and kind of using it as a bit of publicity to try and get people to come round. You have this nosy, busybody housekeeper who kind of listens in on half the conversation, ends up being a bit of Chinese whispers, and yeah, it basically blows it all out of proportion. So one of the sisters gets a bit upset, thinking that they're doing it as publicity for their own show rather than, for the general, which is what it all seems to be about. She goes off and, whole shenanigans happens. Eventually, Bob does go on the TV, does manage to get a lot of his old army buddies to come along with their families, and it has a very lovely ending. But I found myself getting a little bit bored with the story. It was only kind of jigged up, kind of similar to It's a Wonderful Life in a way, that it took too long to get to the end, and the ending is lovely, but it just took a long time to get to that point. So for the story, I'm only going to give it slightly above average. It was a very nice film, a very nice story, but I did find myself getting a little bit bored. So I'm going to give the story 7 out of 10. Now, category 2 is the setting, and it starts off for maybe the first 20 minutes, half an hour, well, the first 5 minutes or so, of course, it's in the war times. Then you go to Florida, which is where Bob and Phil, that's where they meet the two girls, Judy and... I can't remember the other sister's name. Judy and the other one. But then after that, the main bulk of the film sets place in Vermont, and it's some nice sets. It's clearly, obviously, it's not on location. They couldn't do back in those days. But by the time you get to the end, you get this wonderful setting, as Vermont should be. It's full of snow, and it's very wintry, and it's a very lovely image. But I think that the fact that a lot of it was kind of studio-based, it takes that little bit of a shine away from it. But overall, the idea of it being set in Vermont, I really like that. And I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. Category 3 is music. Now, of course, this is a musical. It is a full-blown musical. So, as far as I'm aware, this is the only musical that is on that on the list of all the movies I'm doing. I could be wrong, and we'll see as we get down to it. I don't believe any of them are, but like I said, we'll find out sooner or later. So there's a hell of a lot more music than the first two movies, It's a Wonderful Life and Miracle on 34th Street. And everything it did, it was part of a purpose, as it always is with any kind of musical. It's there designed to bring the narrative along, and for the most part, it does exactly that. You have some really good numbers. You have some amazing tap dancing routines throughout the piece, which I never enjoy watching tap dancing because it always reminds me that I cannot tap dance. I tried for many years when I was at university. I did musical theatre at uni, and no matter how hard I tried, I just could not pick it up. There was something about it. I'd like to consider myself an okay mover. I'm not amazing. I'm definitely not a dancer by any means. But that is the one thing I always would have liked to have been able to do, and I just could never pick it up. But yeah, so many good tap dancing routines in there. Some lovely songs, and particularly the musical number towards the end when the general walks in and he sees all his old army buddies, and the song that they were singing to him as he was leaving them, they kind of bring that back, and they're all there back in their army uniforms and everything. That was a tearjerker and really brought a tear to my eye. And of course, with it being set at Christmas time, they even have a song about snow.
Snow, 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 snow. It won't be long before we'll all be there with snow. Snow, snow.
It's Yeah, just absolutely wonderful. My criticisms of, I wouldn't so much say the music. What you have to take into consideration, obviously, this was a movie in the 50s. And so technology hadn't really developed as much at that point, but it was very noticeable. Whenever a song kicked in, either the lip syncing wasn't always in time, and also the sound quality didn't quite match up in terms of the vocal noise level I would expect to hear. And I think that was because of maybe it was the microphones that was used back then. They were maybe more sensitive or something, or maybe just they couldn't really get a good balance on sound. Like I said, it was in the 50s, so I'm prepared to give it, the element of doubt. But there was just a couple of things that brought it down. But overall, really solid music in this, both for musical numbers and instrumental orchestral pieces. So, music has an 8 out of 10. Now, you cannot have a Christmas movie without a Christmas message. And that message is going to score very highly because everything throughout this movie is all done with peace among men and goodwill and generosity and friendship and love and everything that you could really hope for. And it delivers on that. The fact that they, of course, initially, yes, they're going up there to do a show and to do it for financial purposes, to earn a living. But then they develop it further and they're going, we want to do this now for our former general. He was an amazing person and we want him to have a successful business. That is just a wonderful sentiment. And yeah, if maybe there'd just been a touch more Christmassy-ness to it, I probably would have given it full marks. But as it is, I'm giving the Christmas message 9 out of 10. Now, similarly to the Christmas message, you've got to have Christmas cheer in a movie. And similarly to, maybe, again, It's a Wonderful Life. That's probably the one I can compare this closer to. It took too long to get the real Christmassy feel and Christmas festive spirit. Like I said, when you get to the end, it overwhelms you with Christmas spirit. But it just took a long time to get there. And for me, if I'm watching a Christmas movie, for me personally, and this is just my personal opinion, I want to be slap bang smothered in festive goodness. That's just who I am as a person. I want to get all that. So, festive cheer gets a 7 out of 10. Now, normally in a movie you only get one main character. In this one, you get 4. So, of course, you have the 2 guys and the 2 gals. And I would say that the dynamic between both pairs works really well with each other. The dynamics between the 2 partners was intermingled. So, with Bob and the sister that I can't remember her name, and I do sincerely apologise, that dynamic, it just felt too antagonistic. They felt too at each other's throats, and maybe unnecessarily so. It's something that you do get with a lot of movies, and of course in real life. But yeah, for a festive movie, I just want happiness and everything. Yeah, of course, pretty much any movie gets boring if it's just happy all the way through. But this one, yeah, I kind of needed something a little bit better there. Now, with the other 2, with Phil and with Judy, for the most part, they have a really lovely dynamic and they're always going at it with their best interests at heart for their respective singing partners. But the one scene that really made me uncomfortable was the whole scene where Judy is suggesting to Phil that the reason that her sister is unhappy is because she feels a bit like a mother hen and needs to protect her younger sister. And the only way to get her out of that and then make her receptive to potentially falling in love with Bob is the fact that she hasn't got someone herself. And so she suggests maybe if we put on a fake engagement, we can, get her to open up a little bit more. But the way that she does that is very... I don't want to say like she was like a sexual predator, but it definitely came across that kind of vibe. And my big problem will always be that if you flip it around and he'd been the man in that situation, and a man was kind of inching closer against the seat that they're on, and the woman is the one who's backing off and is scared and awkward and everything like that, there would be hell to pay. Maybe not so much as in those days, but if you definitely did it these days, oh my God, there would be uproar. So, yeah, I don't like the fact that it happens, any kind of thing, because I don't think I should ever want to see that. If someone's backing away, you respect them, and you say, okay, fair enough. That's, you don't feel that way, that's fine. But unfortunately, there are too many people that do that. So that just made me a little bit uncomfortable there. So the main characters, overall, good dynamics, but let down by some, maybe it's the writing decision, maybe it's the acting decision, I don't know. But they're going to get 7 out of 10. Supporting characters now, and the main one you have, of course, is the General. You have his granddaughter, who is just kind of there. You have the housekeeper, who ends up being a plot development point. But the main, only real supporting character is the General. So the General's the main one, and he had some really good relationships, really good dynamics, and he performed what he did well, and he was written well. So I really liked him. So supporting characters, 7 out of 10. Now, it wouldn't be a Christmas movie if you didn't have a Grinch or a Scrooge of some kind. And this movie didn't really have one. So that disappointed me. The closest you really had to any kind of, kind of button heads or anything like that. I mean, you had the initial thing right at the start with the girls when they were at the club in Florida. They had the landlords that was, accusing them of setting fire to the rug or whatever it was. But then you didn't have anything until you basically had the housekeeper listening on half of a conversation, get the wrong end of the stick, and, cause a problem. So, yeah, unfortunately, that brings the scores down on this movie somewhat. And for the villain of the piece, the Grinch, the Scrooge, it's got to get a 1 out of 10. And again, that's probably me being a little bit generous. The whole movie is about having a white Christmas, and boy, oh boy, did they deliver right at the end. But unfortunately, it was that. It was only right towards the end of the movie. But it was part of the plot of it. The lack of snow fed into it. So I normally would probably knock a few points off of that if they didn't have snow more in the movie. But as it was, yeah, it had snow. And they had a song about snow. Of all the things, I never thought I would see that one coming. But yeah, when it did snow, A, it tied into the plot. B, it was at Christmas. So, amazing. So, the snow gets an 8 out of 10. And finally, Christmas decorations. Once again, because it held everything off until the end of the movie, it was only really the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes, thereabouts, that you had in the decorations. But like with the snow, when they did bring on Christmas decorations, boy, did they deliver. They really did. It was a massive tree. They used it as part of the set. And the outfits, the Santa outfits as part of the show that the men wore, and then the beautiful red and white dresses that the women wore. Fantastic. Absolutely gorgeous. The one distraction I had from that kind of picture that you have was the fact that some of the children at the front of it, who are really stealing a lot of focus, some of them look miserable as hell. It was was quite, quite distracting to see that. But, I'll forgive that a little bit because they're kids. But the director should have known a little bit better. The Christmas decorations are going to get, for this movie, 7 out of 10. So what does that do for the final rankings? Well, I can reveal that White Christmas has scored 68 out of 100. And that means that it gets a B-. And where does that fit into on the rankings? Well, it is currently in second place, only missing out on The Miracle of 34th Street by only 1 point. So what did I overall think? Okay, I can't deny I am a bit of a sucker for musicals. Maybe that is what helped bump it up a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, it was a really solid movie. Had a lot of heart all the way through it. And it delivered in the end. Maybe as we look at some of the other ones, I'm going to start to get more of a festive cheer kind of spread out. Like I did with Miracle of 34th Street. Because that, I was just grinning from ear to ear all the way through. White Christmas, it is definitely one that, again, if I'm around and it's on TV, I will probably watch at Christmas. But it's not going to be one of those that I go out of my way to purposely go and watch it again. But have you seen it? What did you think? Make sure you drop a comment down below. Tell me your thoughts. Remember to like the video. And if you are new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. But at the end of the day, you don't have to. It's up to you. But whatever you do, please do join me again tomorrow for day 4 of my 12 Days of Christmas movie reviews. We're moving forward to the 80s and we're going to watch A Christmas Story. One that, as far as I am aware of, the only thing I vaguely remember is there's some sort of kid in it who apparently gets his tongue stuck to a lamppost or something like that. So, I don't know what it's going to be about, but it's always very highly regarded. So let's see what that's about. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care and have a Merry Christmas.